Hello cosmonauts, thank you for tuning in to this report on our friendly dirty snowballs. If you didn't catch it, there was a comet in our eastern sky on the 2nd of December, but fear not. Through New Year's Day, we will be seeing another comet, Comet 38P, in the same eastern sky. Now while we lovingly refer to comets as dirty little snowballs, they are not always known as these wonderful Kuiper Belt objects. Before we learned about our galaxy, most authorities in the world viewed comets as good or bad omens, whichever meaning applied at the time. This is similar to how we used to view dreams, taking them as signs from God, instead of what most people think of now as just replaying the day's events. One telling during the Middle Ages described comets as the heavy hand of God, even going so far as to say that comets signified floods and earthquakes. Later on in the late 1500s and early 1600s and onwards, comets started becoming a national event when they occurred. Although we still did not know all there was to know, it was then the early newspapers began running stories on what we know today as harmless flakes of ice and dust. Around 350 BCE, Aristotle said that comets were just rogue objects in the Earth's atmosphere, and that they were nothing to be worried about. Despite this, in the Middle Ages, authorities couldn't get enough of the perceived omens in the sky. One poet even went so far as to say they bring fever, illness, pestilence, death, difficult times, shortages, and times of great famine. Excuse me. A comet has even been referenced on a painting, the Bayeux Tapestry. The tapestry depicts William the Conqueror taking over England in 1066. Another painting by Giotto di Bondone. Both of these depictions are the famous Halley's Comet. Giotto, in his painting, Adoration of Magi, depicted the Star of Bethlehem as a comet. Speaking of ice and dust, let's move on to what in fact a comet actually is made of. A comet is made up of several different parts. There is the nucleus, which is where the bulk of ice and rocky materials lie. Not all nuclei are equal though. Comets have ranged in size from roughly 10 kilometers in diameter to about 100 kilometers in diameter, which is about 62 miles, and the 100 kilometers is roughly the size of the English Channel. Now that's a big snowball. Forming around the nucleus is the coma, which is where some gases are stored on the comet. The coma can hold a wide array of different mixtures and have varied so much that it is really hard to pinpoint precisely what is in the comet. With that being said, most often we find a mixture of water vapor, carbon dioxide, and ammonia in them. But don't be too discouraged though. There's a few more pieces we have to dissect on the comet, or should I say trailing the comet. By this, of course, I mean the ever-famous dust trail. This tail contains the pieces of the comet that are being blasted away by the heat of whatever the comet is orbiting. A fun fact, the tail of the comet always faces away from the source of heat, so the sun. Just because we now have a better understanding of what comets are, that doesn't mean that we still don't get afraid when we see a rogue object in the sky. In 1910, when Halley's Comet reappeared, large groups of people believed that we would all be poisoned by prussic acid, a component of Halley's tail. Snake oil salesmen even sold off comet pills to people who believed in this. Peter Apian, an astronomer in the 14 and 1500s, was the first astronomer of modern times that observed the tails of comets always pointing away from the sun. He even wrote a book where he referenced this Astronomicum Caesarium. Another modern astronomer, Tycho Brahe, was the man to disprove Aristotle's original statement and prove that comets could not be from the Earth's atmosphere. He even figured out that comets came from beyond the moon. Quite an achievement for his period of time, might I say. Now, Tycho Brahe was also the first astronomer who said that comets actually orbited something and would return periodically. But that doesn't mean everyone believed him. Johann Kepler, one of the most famous astronomers, actually stated that comets travel in straight lines, thus contradicting his own laws. In 1680, Edmund Halley viewed a large comet. He was actually friends with Isaac Newton, but that's besides the point. Halley tried desperately to figure out a way in which the comet he saw could be traveling in a straight line, but it was not to be. When Halley spoke with Newton, he told him that the comet might just have a sharply curved trajectory. However, with the finding, Halley successfully proved that the comet traveled along an ellipsis, and he calculated that the comet would be back in 1758. But unfortunately, Halley died in 1742, so he was not able to see the return of the comet on December 25th of 1758. So, moving swiftly forward, where do these gosh dang icy orbs come from? They don't just appear out of nowhere, right? Of course not. A comet typically comes from the Kuiper Belt or an Oort cloud. The comets that originate in the Kuiper Belt are characterized for their shorter lifespans and their orbital plane. Being roughly the size as the planets, the Oort cloud comets are characterized by a much longer orbital period, and that the comets orbit on a different or inclined plane than that of the planets. It is debated on how a comet can manage to essentially swap areas of origin coming into the inner solar system from an outer origin. Now, enough with the background. Let's move on to some comets that we all should know about by now. There was a comet that had been seen consistently in 1531, 1607, 1682, and 1705. Because of this discovery, the comet was named after the astronomer Edmund Halley. The comet Hale-Bopp was discovered by Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp. Unfortunately, it will not be visible for us again for about another 2,300 years. This comet got notoriety because when it was visible in our sky, a cult was quite famous at the time wrote that it was a spacecraft. Let's just hope not. The last of our famous snowballs is the Shoemaker-Levy 9, or SL9. This comet was a string of comets that got caught in Jupiter's gravity, and after a brief period of orbiting, the comet unfortunately crashed into the planet's surface to never be heard from again. How about just a few more? Rapid fire naming time. There's the comet Lovejoy, discovered by Terry Lovejoy in 2011. Comet McNaught, discovered in 2006. Lexnell comet in 1770. The Eclipse comet of 1948, which actually occurred during a total solar eclipse. The Great January Comet of 1910, which most thought was Halley's Comet, but came much earlier and showed how much people really cared for these fun little ice balls. The Great March Comet of 1843 was one of the brightest in the 1800s. Now you may have noticed a trend there with the comets. A fun little side note about comets is that for the most part they are named after who discovered them, instead of being assigned the arbitrary name and numbers. There are a few fun facts that I've prepared for you guys. Did you know that comets actually orbit the sun in ellipticals? just like our planets do, and for the most part, the comets are actually far more elliptical than that of any planet in our solar system. Another fun fact is that the ion tail, a part of the comet with most of its ionized gases, which exists along the dust tail, is a result of solar winds, which is why it points away from the source of heat. How about just one more? Did you know that the famous Halley's Comet actually has reported sightings dating as far back as at least 240 BCE? We have had some experience with successfully navigating to and landing on comets. On the screen right now is a picture of the comet Hale-Bopp as it streaked through the sky of 1997. After a few more pictures were taken, we confirmed that the surfaces look like crater-covered space potatoes. Now, of course, comets have not just appeared as our friendly little balls of ice. They have often been portrayed in fiction because of their former omen status. Comets have been written about as a destructive force by renowned author Voltaire, astounding poet Edgar Allan Poe, and the wonderful Camille Flammarion. Most of these destructive forces entail the eventual end of the Earth via collision with the enormous comet. However, a truly amazing author, Jules Verne, once wrote about the theory of a comet smashing into Earth when it was formed, affecting our planet's rotation axis, and possibly even supplying our planet with water. However, Verne also wrote about comets being supernatural vehicles, like structure, in his Off on a Comet. Mark Twain also wrote something similar, when a character rode on a comet to heaven. As if they weren't happy being in literature, comets have also appeared in movies and TV shows. Here is a short list of just a few: Avatar: The Last Airbender, Friends, Maximum Overdrive, Night of the Comet, Doctor Who, and, of course, The Simpsons. Halley's Comet was also referenced in the widely popular song by Mary Chapin Carpenter, When Halley Came to Jackson. To conclude this fun little presentation on the funnest balls of gas that I know of, let me tell you just why you should care about our icy friends in space. Comets are one of the most interesting objects that we observe in our night sky. We could say this because of their interesting origins, possible involvement in forming of our planet, or even how they were at one point the bane of humanity's existence. Comets have had such a varied history that it's so hard to put it into words. How can I truly express the terror that a Roman emperor must have felt when he saw a comet blaring red in the sky just before the eve of battle? How can I really translate the feeling an astronomer receives when she's looking through her telescope and spots a comet shooting across the sky, and when she double checks to see if it should exist and nothing comes back? How can I truly convey the possibility that a comet smashed into Earth while it was just a baby planet being formed, possibly giving it the water it so desperately needed to form life? There's no possibility I could truly express the gravity that each of these expressions mean, but I guarantee we haven't seen the last of these furry, snowy little fuzzballs. When you look up at the night sky tonight, remember to cast your binoculars eastwards into the sky. Hopefully you'll catch one or both of the comets that are passing through our sky as you look. Now, that would certainly be a story to tell your friends, wouldn't it? Maybe it might even bring you good luck.